Mr. Box Office, the Professor of Truth and Entertainment. I want to share my thoughts on why I think Thomas Frank is not good enough for Tottenham Hotspur. I just don't think he is that guy. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's your boy Mr. Box Office from Mr. Box Office TV. Back with another video for you today. And this is one of the videos where I need to speak my truth again. The uncomfortable truth called on our manager, head coach, Thomas Frank. Yeah, we are third in the league so far. Everything seems to be going really well. One game lost in the Premier League so far. And it seems to be a lot of the fan base are together and united for Thomas Frank. On the other hand, though, as a Tottenham fan myself, Mr. Box Office, the Professor of Truth and Entertainment, I want to share my thoughts on why I think Thomas Frank is not good enough for Tottenham Hotspur. And I want to share it with you, all of you. Let's get straight into it. The reason why I'm doing this video on this Thomas Frank saying that he's not good enough is because there's specific points where I think he's not a winner. He won't win at Tottenham because of these factors. But before I go on to those factors, I have to speak about the qualities he has that he's shown so far. And one of those qualities is quite clearly he is a coach that is focusing on making players better at what they are currently doing at the moment, well, previously doing at the moment. You can see that with the defence so far. He's improved that much better than it was before. But like someone would say to me, like we said about Postecoglou, he had the easiest job to do in that regards. It's just to play the defence the way that it should have been played in the first place. And then you've got a competent defence and you look more solid. Quite simple. You put a number 6 there in Paulinho, look what happens. You look a very solid team with the double pivot of Bentancur. Bentancur looks a better player alongside a competent number 6, which he was looking when Højbjerg was there before. So that shows you that he's done a lot of work there, and that's improved because we've not conceded that many goals and we have more clean sheets on the table than we had last season. So that's a positive. One other positive I've got to speak about is his communication with the fans and the communication with the press. It's brilliant. He communicates very well, and if you don't agree with him, you know that he will explain why he comes to that conclusion. So you can't get angry with him, and he's a very nice guy. You can see it. So with all that said, I can't not look at some of the stuff that I see that I just don't think he is that guy that is the winner. And we'll go into it like this. First one, I did say he's a nice guy, but I think the nice guys always finish last. And I think this is going to be this occasion with Thomas Frank. And I'll give you some examples. I think in the press conferences, he's answering all the questions. He's giving a lot of information away. I think it's kind of summed it up when big on social media Tottenham fan asked him a question, which was a very silly question, let's be honest here, about certain things about the club and giving away a lot of things. And he was kind of answering it in a very polite way. Now, if that was Pep Guardiola, for instance, or a Jose Mourinho, for instance, I don't think that would have been an answer. I don't think there would have been an answer at all. I think he would have looked at him and maybe kind of would have been a bit rude about it and said, why are you asking me that sort of question? That's not the sort of question I should be answering, really. And I think with that, I think he is a very nice guy that you can see that he is very lenient with certain players. Yeah, there is an example when he was being a bit more ruthless with certain players, like Bissouma, when he was always late, and he said, "Well, I'm sorry, you're out the team. You need to improve on your arriving on time in training." But now he's back in the squad. They couldn't sell him, so he's back in the squad. So he wasn't extradited that long. So, and you can see that he's very lenient with certain players. And I think that's, as a result, complacency is sinked in. You've seen it in games like Bodo Glimt, Villarreal, Bournemouth, that we lost, the only game we've lost, Wolves. And it seeps into certain players, such as Jed Spence, who has been up and down this season. Vicario, who's, I think, has been very, very lucky to still be in goal because he's been very shaky this season. Let's be honest here. And Kinski's been very unlucky that he's not in the back end of the team because he hasn't done anything wrong. He seems to have a lot of loyalty for players like Bentancur, for instance. Now he's signed a new contract. Romero. Richarlison, who, let's be honest here, since the start of the season, has done absolutely nothing. I've been very critical of him. He's been sitting on his backside and doing anything else rather than holding up the ball. Let's be honest here. And it's just, you don't see any other players. Now, yeah, he's used certain players like Archie Gray, Burval, Sarr, Mattis Tell, who I think Mattis Tell, I think he's been very loyal to him as well, especially now he's not in the Champions League squad. I think he's dealt with it very well, Mattis Tell, but let's be honest here, he ain't been that great, even though he scored the goal against Leeds at lunchtime in the game that we won. He still hasn't been that great. Proves that he should be in the team. Let's be honest here. Alderbear, bang average. Let's be honest here. He's had his moments again. So I think the leniency, and it's seeped into complacency with some of the first teamers, the experienced players as well. And I think that will be a crucial thing. These players will let him down when the crucial times to win. And that's ultimately what needs to happen. We need to win. When we're playing this pragmatic football, if you're winning, it's fine. But when you're losing, that's when the fan base don't like it. And we know what sort of football Tottenham Hotspur like to play. I think that calm exterior of Thomas Frank and being known, being approachable is kind of could be a negative in terms of winning, and could be an effect on players taking advantage of him maybe later on in his tenure. But we have to wait and see. Second point, why I don't think he's good enough for Tottenham Hotspur is in-game management. I think it's proven in certain games that we've seen. When it's going right, you can see it goes all right. Like West Ham, for instance. Like Burnley, for instance. Like Man City, for instance. Now, Man City, that was a big test. That was a massive test for Tottenham Hotspur. And he did really achieve a lot from that game. Proved a lot that he can handle himself. I mean, Brentford, he did struggle against some of the big sides, yes. But you can see he done really well there. But when things were going wrong, like Bournemouth game, he wasn't able to claw it back, and he was very slow in making substitutions. Very evident in the Bodo Glimt game, where, let's be honest here, he got the team completely and utterly wrong. Like he got it wrong against Bournemouth. Very defensive. More focused on the defensive side of Tottenham rather than trying to attack. And that shows that there is a lack of, there's concern there. And that could be crucial in us getting over that line in a trophy. Because again, in one-off game, you've only got a one-off game to really do something. Champions League, it's only moments in the game that could be crucial to winning that game or losing that game. So there are some things that I am a bit concerned about in that sense, where he can make mistakes in terms of doing things, and then he won't be able to claw it back in the game. And these are criticisms that you see from other managers. Pochettino had that criticism. Martin Jol had that criticism. So he's not the only one that has that problem. Obviously, certain managers like your Ange Postecoglou's, your Mourinho's, your Conte's were able to do those changes in game management and get the best out and claw the game back or win the game or get back into the game. Now, yeah, we've got back into games like Bodo Glimt, Brighton, but I don't know if that was down to him or him just rectifying mistakes or anything like that, or the team, the opposition, keeping their eye off the ball. I don't know, but there is concern about his lack of in-game management, and this is a different level to what he was doing at Brentford. So, yeah, I think also he's got too many players that he's trying to accommodate, and unfortunately, you can't accommodate all the players. You've got to match it to what you need. So there's where I think there's a big concern there in terms of him winning. And I don't think he's got that in him at the moment. Hence, another thing, what we spoke about before, him being a nice guy, a problem. The third point I need to speak about with Thomas Frank is his being tactical rigid. Now, what I mean by that, I think he's very too focused on being defensive. And it's clearly the point right now that we're very focused on the flanks of trying to attack the opposition, with Kudus on the right, Porro on the right mainly, or you've got Spence on the left, or Alderweireld, or you've had Javi Simmons there, you've had Johnson there sometimes. I think Johnson's sometimes on the right, sometimes as well. So when we're focused so much on the flanks, you've got the centre that is just purely focused with. You've got Bentancur and Paulinho, and then you've either got in the main you've had either Sarr or Berval in that middle, and they're the ones that have just been solid. You know, just keeping us being solid as a midfield, solid, so it could protect that back four. And I do feel sometimes that it does get very predictable, very predictable. We're trying to catch teams on the transition by pressing them and making mistakes. That's where we're getting our goals from, let's be honest here, or either free kicks or corners or long throws. And it's very, very predictable. And even if we go to a back three, it's very, very predictable as well. There's no really way of trying to attack them and press, really do it from our good play at the moment. Even with Javi Simmons there, who for me is not really a number 10 at the moment. He's not acting like a number 10. He does a few good moves, but there's a lack of creativeness there in the team. The only one that's really shown some good creative moves is Mohamed Kudus, who's been our really best attacker so far, this far. So it's just showing you some of the problems we've had in attack, really. And with that, I don't think he's shown. I think there's a lot of stats related, data related to some of the changes that we're making. You can see that the synergy with him and Johan Lang. And I do feel there is a lack of bravery as well. Now, I understand he's trying to keep it tight. He's trying to build on the work that he's already done. We've already done with Ange Postecoglou. Makes sense. Logical. Absolutely. But I think it's becoming very, very monotonous. And like I said in my last video, there's no difference to Antonio Conte. No different to Antonio Conte. Antonio Conte, though, had a better strike force, obviously. In Harry Kane, Son, Moira. I'll take Moira in this team than any of these players that we've got at the moment. And I was criticising Moira I thought he was absolutely awful at the time. And then you had the centre midfielders in Bentancur. You had Kulusevski there as well at the time as well. And then you had the back three of Dyer, Romero, and then maybe Davis. And then you had the wing backs of Doherty and Sessegnon as well. So it just shows you some of the work that we've got to do. It's a lot of work that we have to do here. And you can see why the games are very, very boring, because we do get very stale. It's very stale in the team at the during that time. And that's where the problem lies at the moment. I think there's a lack of balance between the attack and the defense, because he's so focused on keeping it solid, which again, he gets a lot of plaudits for. But when it comes down to it, when the game's going against you, you sometimes do need to take a risk, and it does go the other way sometimes as well. And it shows you that all that attacking play that we did under Postecoglou was really covering up the cracks that the players are not good enough. That was it. So what I'm saying is, at the moment, it sounds like he's got a lot of work to do to try and convince a lot of Tottenham fans, especially myself, that this guy can really get this team over the line at the moment. And with all these factors that I've just spoken about, I think it's hard pressed to I think there's still a lot to do to try and prove himself right now. And yeah, people will say I'm hating on Thomas Frank. Well, no, I'm just giving you my opinion on what I'm seeing right now on the pitch and what I've observed so far, not from the fan base, from what I've seen so far. Because the spotlight is purely on Thomas Frank right now, because we all know who's left the club. So I'm willing to be proved wrong. He's a nice guy. I've got nothing against him. And before I end this video, I had doubts on Mauricio Pochettino when he came in. He proved me wrong. I'm repeating myself again. So if he can prove me wrong, if Villas-Boas can prove me wrong, if Ange Postecoglou can prove me wrong in terms of winning, Thomas Frank can do it. I'm definitely on his side. What's your thoughts on what I've just said? Leave it in the comments. And like I always say, if you could like and subscribe to the channel, that'd be really appreciated. We're carrying on this international break. You'll see more videos. You'll see you on the next video. Take care of yourselves. And as always, if you didn't know, get to know. Support your boy, Mr. Box Office. Subscribe and like. And come on, you Spurs. And I'm out.